Hello everyone from Vine. My name's Lauren Tobia and I'm speaking to you all the way from sunny Bristol. So I apologise if you probably need subtitles now. I'll try and speak clearly, but I've got a really thick Bristolian accent. So that strange noise, that's my that's my accent, I'm sorry. Um, so the first thing I suppose I'm talking about is my book, Oscar's Tower of Flowers. And that's obviously coming out, and I'm very excited to share it with you. So I think the first time, what kicked it all off, the story, was that I found out was going to be a grandma for the first time. So that was a huge thing, and I wanted to make him a present, really, I suppose, a reminder. Um, so I started off just sort of scribbling in a book, and this is Oscar's Tower of Flowers as it started. Um, this is how you work with a sketchbook. Basically, I just put in all the ideas that I had, and it got more and more scruffy and more weird, and more things started happening, and they just fell out. And eventually, I got a text. Well, I submitted a text to the publisher, which is the words, obviously, and we looked at it and they said, why not take the words out? Actually, the story works without words. So I thought it was a really good idea. So I started making it almost like a comic book. So piecing the story together and trying to do it visually. It was complicated and there's lots of drawing, but it was fun, and it was lovely to see what I could put in the story that didn't need words. I suppose with every every piece of work you do, it brings in the things that you're interested in, and I didn't realise I was so obsessed about certain things until I started making the book, and I realised I was completely nuts on houseplants. I mean, I have got a houseplant business, a very small one. In fact, I've got a little market stall in Bristol where I sell houseplants. So, yeah, they were everywhere, so they tend to be part of the story. I think it's quite funny that although this is a wordless book and it doesn't tell you very much, I've got a huge land here inside the book of people. I know who they are, what they're doing, who knows what they're going to do next. I suppose the main theme of the book is something that I'm quite passionate about, is that people from somewhere else will often come to a place with fresh eyes, and I think Oscar comes to his granny's house and sees that the plant isn't doing well and somehow changes where he is. So, you know, the tower block originally is quite functional. There are lots of people doing their thing, but they're not talking to each other, and they're all just getting on with their lives. But once he starts growing all these plants and sharing them with other people, that brings people together and changes the dynamic of of the the tower block, and starts people talking to each other. So the end papers are basically the whole story. The very functional house building, with everyone just doing their thing, and then the second one is the building community, having all the plants about, people talking to each other because of them, and it's a catalyst that makes people come together and work together. I think sometimes it's useful to have, or fun to have, an animal in any of my books, because although they're not saying anything, they're just watching and maybe just reacting to what's going on. And I used to have a cat called Spike, who when I was a kid, and that's the cat that's in there. He's black and white in real life, but now he's blue because this is a children's book and I can choose to have a blue cat if I want. It's taken about 3 years from scribbling in my notebook to talking to publishers to making the pages and to get it ready for print. And right in the middle of it, the pandemic hit, and that sort of changed some of the tone of it, I think, or changed some of my thoughts about it. Spent a long time looking at it and thinking, gosh, yes, we're really lucky to have people around us, and to have a community, and how important that is. And I think I didn't want to put too much about it in there, but I did put a little rainbow in one of the windows, so you can see if you can find it. I suppose I should explain that, because in the UK, a lot of people made things to put in their windows, because we weren't speaking to each other anymore. A lot of people put pictures in their windows, and one of the recurring themes was a rainbow, which basically said, the rain happens and then the sunshine comes again. Like tower blocks, I think they're fascinating. I love the way that there are loads of different people all living on top of each other and next to each other in the same building, but not necessarily knowing each other. And if you look at one house or one big tower, there are so many stories that are going on in each level and each story. Hello, this is me and my desk. So I spend a lot of my day just drawing in my sketchbook. I use mostly a very fine pencil, and then I scan it into my computer, and then I work on it on my iPad normally to put the colours in. I get the colours first off from using watercolours and things like that, but once you're making a book, I tend to work on the computer. I also drink a lot of tea and play with my phone. Yeah. So once I've done the drawings and scanned them in, I tend to work on the colours, particularly for sort of finished artwork. I tend to work on the computer. So at the moment I'm working on an iPad using Procreate, which is a sort of drawing tool. And so if I take all the layers down, you can see the original line drawing. Yep, there we go. So that's my original line drawing, as I've done before. And then I fill in colours and things as I go. So here we go, and I'll put some red dots on his little top. Or I can get it right, there we go. So I can just start putting the dots on, which is quite fun. And then, as you can see, they don't really have to go over the lines, because I just change the level to multiply, and then rub out the bits that I don't want. So it starts to look like he's got a little woolly dressing going on. It's the little things when you're illustrating that are really quite satisfying. It's like I put my cat in there again. I was talking about it earlier, the cat called Spike that I had when I was a kid, except this one's black and white, but he's in the pocket of a little child character. Rubber ducks are always good. I enjoy doing rubber ducks. I'll just put the colours back in, and you can see how all the layers come together. So yeah, that's how the drawings are made into. Here are some shots of my studio, and you can tell what a mess it is. I keep thinking that I'm going to tidy it up, but never happens. So my name's Lauren Tobia, and I've lived in Bristol all my life, except for a very short period when I didn't, but long story. I've lived in the same little area for many, many years. Oh, and it says in my biography that I live in a tiny house. Now, I think there's a clarification. I don't live in like one of them cart things with wheels. I live in just a small house. um, I live with my husband, and we've been together for eons. So I'm now officially a nana, which I'm enjoying a lot, and it's very handy because my daughter and her family live in just behind that wall there, so I can hear him, Oscar, when he's charging about the garden shouting. So I've always been a drawer. I've always been fairly creative, but I didn't go to art college until I was 40. So there's hope out there for anyone who wants to get into adult education. I recommend it. It's much more fun. Before that, I had a career as a nurse, and I worked as an intensive care nurse for 10 years. I was a nurse for about 25 years altogether. But, things change. So why children's illustration? It's a difficult one, really. I think all my work just seems to look like children's illustration. Even when I was supposedly doing edgy things, they ended up just looking silly and funny. It's always been my humour and my take on things to be a little bit childish, really, I think. Since I left college, I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing writers on some lovely books. Probably most well known for Happy in My Skin by Fran Minushkin, and the Anna Hibiscus series, which has been like a constant for years now. I started off straight from college doing the first Anna Hibiscus books, the fiction titles, and have continued to illustrate them right through to picture books. But this is my first book that has come straight from my head, and it means a lot to me. You did ask me what my favourite cake was, and I'd say the one next to me on a plate, because I love cake. I'm particularly fond of date and walnut. I like loads of cakes with nuts in, but my husband hates nuts, and he gets very cross if I produce nut cakes.